Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their relationship issues, breakups, and a lot of other stuff. Let's get into it today. I wanted my ex to appreciate me more. Why was I walking on eggshells? This actually comes up a lot, especially for men. Over and over again, guys will say, I can't get it right. I've tried this. I do this. I don't get a thank you. I don't get a good job, nice meal. Thanks for doing that. It comes up all the time. And I think women look at it as a thing as, well, you're a guy. I don't need to pat you on the back all the time or give you a compliment here and there. But I'm going to get a little deeper on this. I actually saw on an Instagram post today a Steve Harvey clip. I'm not a big fan of Steve Harvey. Doesn't mean I have anything against him. He's just one of those comedians that I don't think is that funny. And then now he does, it's kind of interesting, you segue from being a comedian. Family Feud was cool. Did a good job on that. But now he's a relationship person. And so am I. So what he does with this is, you get these couples on like Dr. Phil does. And they have issues and they have problems and they talk about it. But it's really, when you watch these shows, someone's going to get blamed. Someone's going to get more of their story out there. And really, you're on a time limit, right? So always think about that. Someone's talking about a relationship they've been in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. You're not seeing all the puzzle pieces. So someone comes on and they go, you never appreciated me. What does that even mean? I mean, what does that really mean? Does it really line up? So I wanted my ex to appreciate me more. We could transfer this statement over into, I want my wife to appreciate me more. I want my girlfriend to appreciate me more. I want my boss to appreciate me more. I'm okay with that. But here's 5 things I want to go through if you're lacking in appreciation from a partner, friend, family, or colleague. Number 1, what specifically did you want them to appreciate you about? I mean, specifically. I don't know. I just want them to appreciate me. What would help if you even knew what you wanted to be appreciated for? And correct me if I'm wrong. There's a lot of times when you say thank you to someone or you get a thank you from someone and you go, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Oh, it's okay. Right? Do you really cherish the thank you that much? Now, it's nice when someone does something really thoughtful. They write you a thank you card. They write you a longer email or text saying why they appreciate what you did or who you are to them. Right? But where do you really want the appreciation? A few years back, I was working at a university as a teacher. And I got plenty of appreciation from students. Plenty of appreciation. And you know what? I always used to joke around that it was teacher's currency because we didn't get paid a whole lot. But it feels good to get appreciated. It feels good for someone to say, you're my favorite class. It feels good. But from colleagues or who I would say my superiors were, they're not really in the classroom that much. So they can't really appreciate you the same way a student could. But they can appreciate the fact that students enjoyed your class or that you were making a difference in some of their lives, dare I say. And I never really had a problem with that. But over time, there'd be a few situations where individuals were being judgmental about the way I was teaching or kind of passive aggressively making comments. And I was thinking to myself, there was a rating systems at the end of the term where students could rate you on 1 to 5 on a variety of things, kind of like a 5 stars type thing. Then they could make comments about you as a teacher. My ratings on that were like 4.83 out of 5 with 40 students over 6 different classes. So like 35 to 40 students you're looking at 200 to 300 kids. It's pretty high. It's pretty high. Was I the greatest teacher on earth? Hell no. My point was, I come up to this issue, and that was one of the things. I felt disrespected and unappreciated. Now, I don't know what they could have done as fellow teachers or superiors of mine to make me feel appreciated by them. Looking back, and really, the things that they were nitpicking or upset with me, they're just imposing how they teach onto me. So what they were doing is, well, you need to do this, and you need to do that, and you need to do this. It's like, to be more like you, right? So when you're in a relationship or you have a situation at work, think about this for a minute. What specifically do you want them to appreciate you about? Because sometimes it's just a feeling of being disrespected. Because most of the time, like I said, looking back at those teachers, like, oh, you're one of the best teachers we have. You know, we really appreciate you. I would have probably just said thank you. Probably wouldn't have thought about it a whole lot. Right now, if they gave you an award and put you in a ceremony, then you might get teary-eyed, right? Now you got a crowd, you got an audience. You don't get that with your ex. So sometimes I understand where people are coming from, especially men, where I'm never appreciated. What they're saying is, all I'm hearing from you is negativity or telling me when I'm doing something wrong. Right? And the opposite of that is being appreciated or telling you when you've done something right. And it just seems that it's more on the end for men. It's just like, fuck it. I'm not going to say anything. But they really do feel that. What I'm saying is get really in touch with what it is you're looking for in that appreciation. Number 2, how would you have known that they appreciated you? Great question. I mean, what are you looking for here? You're looking for a gift? Just thank you. Just thank you once in a while. Okay, really? Would that be enough? What are you really looking for? Write it out in a journal. Write it out in the comments after you watch this video. Really think about that. What am I really looking for? Number 3, have you had issues with other people not appreciating you enough? Now, this is a big one. Have you accused others of this? Now, if you ever want to get out in front of an issue you have with an individual, an ex, a partner, a friend, colleague, boss, manager, whatever, you got this big issue and you're just hammering away on like, can't believe they did that. Can't believe they did that. Have you come up with that for other people? Because then it becomes more your problem. I've talked about this before. I knew a friend that had a lot of money and was doing a lot of construction work on his house. And this is kind of something that people do a lot, right? And had a lot of staff working for him. I've known him for years. He complains about his 80 to 90% of the staff that he has. If he gets work done, it's never done right. They always overcharge. But he doesn't really connect the dots, and it's not my place to say. But it leads you to think, is he always hiring bad people? Which is a possibility. Or is he allowing himself to get taken advantage of? It's a possibility. Or is he just looking for any way to make that true? Because something happened to him when he was younger, or teen years, one of his friends stole money from him. There's some kind of seed to that issue. And then it becomes this vast generalization. Oh, people always rip me off. So people have these throwaway statements. Oh, I always get ripped off. And then they get ripped off. And they're like, I can't believe this always happens to me. You're making it happen. Subconsciously, your mind wants you to get ripped off because it wants to be right. So you could have someone appreciating you, and me, Parisa, a bunch of other people from the live stream could be looking at you and going, wow, your wife looks like she does appreciate you. She just doesn't give you a big hug and a kiss, but the way she looks at you and the way she takes your picture and the way she, I don't know, serves you dinner. She looks like well, no, she never says this. That's usually attached to something else, right? It's usually attached to something else. Because most of the time, people that are appreciated, it isn't always with words, right? Number 4, when was there a time when you felt extremely appreciated? Extremely appreciated. And there's some simplicity in that. Please put it in the comments if you've had a time where you felt extremely appreciated. And this goes back to my teaching years, if I'm going to share one myself. Just had a student that was late quite a bit for class. He was a musician. I think he drank a lot, partied a lot. And I used to joke around with him in class, give him a hard time about being late. We had fun in that class. It was a good class. And he just came up to me at the end of the term, and this was my first or second term teaching at this university that I'd been at for a while, years later. And he just shook my hand. He said, "Hey, I really liked your class, and I usually don't like school that much. Thank you." I just remember thinking like, thanks, man. Felt appreciated, felt good. I haven't shared that since that moment. The simplicity in it. But the interesting thing about that, people that go around telling people how much they're not appreciated. But can we comb through your life and find when you were? And if someone's like, I don't know, they don't want to talk about it, they're probably filtering for not being appreciated. There's probably something deeper there. Number 5, do you see other couples that show each other appreciation? So the person that's feeling unappreciated all the time, do you notice possibly another couple that's close to you, your parents, your sister's relationship, where you're like, wow, they really appreciate each other, and you're measuring that. Now, let me circle back. This happens a lot, and I'm with a lot of the people. Okay, you're not appreciated, but what do you really want to get appreciated for? And how would that be conveyed to prove that you've been appreciated? And then we get back to this one. A lot of times, when someone's typecasted in the relationship and they start to say, thank you, or here, I just bought you your favorite chocolate bar, or I bought you this. The other person usually is like, yeah, you're just doing that because I said something. Because again, the subconscious mind wants to be right, and you want to prove. And this is what's really hard. When someone's dug in and they've repeatedly told you you're not something in a relationship, even if that person does what they say they want, they find a way to push it away or disregard it. Have you had that happen before? Where you're like, I think years back, I had a girlfriend that was complaining about some things, and my relationships have been pretty good. And the only reason I can measure that is I've been doing 5 years of breakup coaching, and sometimes I hear some relationship, I go, wow, how'd you stay in that one? Usually the intimacy. But oh, you never ask me if I wanted a coffee when you go to Starbucks or when you go to the coffee shop. I used to go to this place called Pete's. It's like, okay, well, you always told me you didn't really like coffee like that, so I just disregarded it. And you always say it's expensive, so I just, you know what I mean? I had reasons, but I went, all right. So the next time I'm out, I go and get a coffee. I said, hey, I got you a latte. It's in the fridge. I don't want it. That's the kind of stuff where you're like, what did I miss? A few days ago, you're complaining that I don't ask. So that the problem's clear. This isn't that I don't appreciate you. This is what happens with generalized blanket statements. Oh, you don't appreciate me. So when I go to the coffee shop and I don't ask you if you want a coffee, I don't appreciate you. Okay, I can fix that. I'll get you a fucking coffee. No problem. Done. Not a big deal. I wasn't thinking in my head, oh, I don't appreciate her, I'm going to show her. I was just thinking, You don't really like the coffee here. You say it's too expensive. Won't get it. But now if you told me that, it's like, all right, I'll grab you one. No problem, hon. But then you come home, you bring the latte. It's like, no, I don't even want it. I already have some mix. It's like, do you remember the statement you said a week ago? Oh, that's right. Oh, this is the latte I don't even like anyways. Now, those are the kind of situations where people don't have a problem with your appreciation. They have a problem within themselves. Within themselves, they're looking for things to chip away at you like rats on a cheese log. They're just looking. And then you know, now if you're in one of those relationships, it doesn't have anything to do with appreciation. It has to do with keeping you on your toes. Think about that for a minute. Let me know in the comments if this resonates with anyone. When I felt someone paid attention to small details of who I am and what I say. Can you give a specific situation, Parisa? Right? So I'm going to show right now a clip, and I don't know if this is going to be copyrighted because it's from TV, but I'll show it anyways. And I saw this earlier today. Well, you get a full one-on-one today, Parisa. I don't think there's anyone else on. I came at an odd time today. But I'm glad you're on deck. Let me know if you have any questions or you want to get into any of the things that are going on with you, because I know you've missed quite a few live streams. I'll share this really quick. Let's see here. All right. Here we go.
Is there anything I could have done to save our relationship?
Keisha, I think you're a great person. I think you're a good person. And I appreciate the fact that you realized how closed off you were. But to answer your question, I think you could have saved the relationship by being more appreciative, putting more effort, the same way I did, and I kept stepping towards you, but you kept stepping back. And marriage was out the question because don't nobody want to marry anyone who not showing the same appreciation as them or who not giving their effort like them. So that just pushed me back, and as far as right now, I have a girlfriend, and I love her to death. And that's what I want to get you to see, that you got to appreciate the people that's in your life. The people that come in your life, you don't know how long they're going to be there. You got to appreciate them while they're there, because when they're gone and you don't appreciate them, they got every right to walk away from you. And that's what I wanted to get you to see. So I'm sorry if it hurt. I'm sorry if it hurt you, but I just hope you got the closure you were looking for.
Thank you.
Now, let me say this before I ask you what you're feeling. I think he said some things that might have mattered to you, but guess what? He didn't really tell you nothing.
Does anyone catch the drama in these shows? I don't know if they're trained to do this, but so this is just a clip. I don't know what happened in the breakup. This just came up in my feed and Instagram today, and I was thinking to myself. But here's the thing. There's got to be more details to this whole breakup and this relationship than just, you didn't appreciate me enough. I have a new girlfriend. How weren't you appreciated? And so this gets out there, and then people are like, oh yeah, they grab on to oh, I'm not appreciated. Oh, I'm not appreciated. It's like, yeah, but what happened in the relationship? What happened? There's got to be more to this than, you didn't show me enough appreciation. I took 2 steps forward. You took 2 steps back. Is there some details that we're missing out of this? This is why I always tell people to write their story out. Let's see if there's anything else that comes about.
Didn't already know. See, ladies, when you're looking for closure, you really already know. You're the most brilliant people in the world. I don't know why when it's over, all of a sudden y'all act like y'all don't know nothing. You know everything because you have intuition. So I think now, how you feel right now, Lakeisha?
Well, like you said, I already knew it, but it just hurts just to hear from the source. but it's definitely gonna help me move on.
Well, see, look, it can't hurt no more. You already knew. He told you. Told you 4 years ago. Bishop Jake said this best. You can't drive your car looking in the rearview mirror. You can't. You're going to keep crashing. Now, he in the rearview mirror. Nice ass rearview mirror now. Boy, nice right here, boy. Nice. Woo! So, hey, folks, welcome. Thanks for checking out my YouTube channel.
All right. So like I said, that just came up earlier. And the thing about it is, like I said, there's no details to what happened in the breakup. There's no substance to any of that. And the fact that someone's getting closure and then they're told they weren't appreciated. There's so much lost in that. And this is what happens. I was just talking to someone on a live coaching session yesterday. She's been coming to my channel for a while. She's like, actually, I sent you a story 2 years ago. She's in a new situation. And she said, a lot of this advice, I don't get appreciated enough. Okay, so what's the details? What's the details here? What actually happened that you didn't appreciate? And if that's true, where's that coming from? So this is what gets lost. This is psychology 101, okay? Everyone's like, oh, how do you do what you do? Read a lot of psychology books, read a lot of stuff, did a lot of coaching, been a teacher for 10 years. It's a culmination of a lot of life experience, right? But when you look at this, it's like, oh yeah, that happened to me. I don't get appreciated. Let's get a little deeper. That's what you pay for therapy for. It's just someone to ask good questions and to hold space, ask some more questions and dive a little deeper. And then you go, oh my God, I didn't know where that's coming from. It's coming from somewhere. It absolutely is. And once you find it out, you can check on it. If she was not appreciating him, there's something deeper there. Maybe she was neglected when she was young. Maybe someone broke up with her when she was 15. I don't know. It's not that simple. It's not just intuition told her that this is why. That's a pretty broad statement. There would probably be specific situations throughout the relationship that switch things. And that's what's interesting. When you get a story or you dive into something for 2 hours one-on-one with someone about the breakup, it's so much deeper. Let me get in the sun here a little bit. Yeah. There you go. Got a little bit of sun in this new office here. All right. Right on, Riflin. So I broke contact 2 days ago to ask about my stuff, but also asked about whether he wanted coffee to make sure we are firm with our decision. He declined as nothing changed for him. Okay. Well, that's good that you got to ask that. Last night he messaged to talk about how the situation is sad and how it feels odd that we are distant but was so close. Then he said, it's the right decision. Even though it's hard now, do I reply? Would you want to come on and talk about this for a little bit, Parisa? It's funny, I'm in this new office and I share this space and I feel like I'm whispering because there's an echo in this room. If you want to come on to talk about it, Parisa, we can get a little deeper on it. I know a little bit about your situation from before. Now, just to answer your question right there, yeah, accept it. Last night he messaged to talk about how the situation is sad and how it feels odd that we are distant, but was so close. Then he said it's the right decision. If he says it's the right decision, do you agree? Number one would be, do you agree? And what are your reasons for breaking up? What are your problems? So that would be my first question to you. What are your problems? Now I'm going to give you guys an example. Guys and gals, ladies and gentlemen, I've written this out It's a new format that I'm thinking about exploring to explain situations within relationships where you can look at it and you go, oh, now I have a whole new interpretation of how that is. I'll copy that in. Let me do this. Parisa, let me know if you want to come on and talk. No video needed. We can do that. Before we do that, let me go into the sun. And let me go into this new format that I want to share. I'm still going to do stories. If you want to send in your story to writemac.com and get my take, let me know. You know what's funny about that too is a lot of people that send in their story, I'll send them a link and I'll say, go ahead and review the story that I laid out for you. And then they'll go, I watched it like 10 times. I watched it like 5 times. Because they haven't had someone's opinion that wasn't a friend or family member yet. And like some people are like, oh, you're a little bit harsh. But they usually always tell me, thank you for doing that. Or they'll explain where maybe they feel like I got something wrong. And you know why? Because they didn't give all the information. It's like someone a few days ago, it's like, well, I actually didn't tell you this part. Right? Actually, at a late night party, I was doing some other things besides drinking. It's like, all right, tell me the truth, right? People leave a lot of stuff out when they tell friends and family stuff. It's like, oh, let's leave out the stuff that might be shameful. All right, so let me pull up. One moment here. Let me pull up. So today I want to talk about this one. I'll probably make a separate video for this at some point. But let me know what you think about this style. We got Rye Flint, Parisa, the great Crystal from Vegas, Eduardo Martinez. We got the sun here. Let's get this going. So you've heard me talk about typecasting, right? Where someone says, my girlfriend's complaining of that I don't clean around the house. And then when I clean, I get complained for that I don't do it right. I'm walking on eggshells. I can't get credit for anything I do right. Right? And this is the topic. I wanted my ex to appreciate me more. Why was I walking on eggshells? So this is a scenario. Okay. This is based on a lot of stuff that I hear a lot of times that comes up. So the partner that wants to complain but doesn't believe their partner is capable of changing. I started cleaning up the house this weekend and she told me you don't have to do that. And you don't even know how to sweep properly. I can't do anything right for her. So this is just an example. Now here's a scenario that I put together. Ron's been with Susie for over 5 years. And for all those years, Ron's worked heavy hours. And Susie, whom has lighter scheduled job, does all the house chores. You with me? Recently, her mother fell ill and she's had to go to her home and make meals and do housework for her. She's now started to complain that Ron doesn't help out around the house and she no longer wants to do the dishes every night, that she's tired of doing his laundry. Okay, so they've been together 5 years and this is the first time that Ron's gotten any idea that she has a problem doing the laundry and the dishes and doing all the housework. So people from the outside might go, oh, Ron's a jerk. Oh, Ron should do that. It's like, if you started the relationship like that and that was your pleasure to do so, Ron's not a jerk. It might have been her pleasure to do so. Now, there is a piece of this story, if you looked at it, that is the turning point in the whole situation, that will get overlooked by Ron for sure, friends and family for sure, because they don't know the whole story. Stay with me on this. So She's now started to complain that Ron doesn't help out around the house and no longer wants to do the dishes every night, and she's tired of doing his laundry. Ron internally is shocked and pissed because he's never had this problem before. He's frustrated. But he just wants Susie to be happy again so that he can get some intimacy before bedtime and just get things back to normal. So he decided he'll do the dishes. But his style of doing the dishes is instantly scoffed at because he didn't scrub the dishes with enough soap and he didn't even use the right dish soap on the glasses. Right? He explains that the dishes look clean and that he only drank water from the glasses so they don't have to be cleaned. She goes off and tells him, just forget it, she'll do it. He goes to the garage to pound a beer, watch some porn on his phone. She re-washes the dishes and glasses. Now, did everyone catch that story or do I have to go back through it? This is a scenario. Interpretation. Ron doesn't know why he's suddenly being pressed to do house chores after 5 years of her doing it. Now, hearing that story, the people on deck right now or the people in the comments, what was the turning point and what would be the reason that she suddenly wants him to pitch in? What's changed? What's changed? Any Sherlocks out there? Because this is what happens in relationships. When you bring your story to me, I'll see it right away. And you'll be like, oh, I don't know what this is. What is it? Why is she suddenly wanting him? What would you think it is? It's been 5 years. She's always never had a problem with it. What's changed? Ron's clueless. He doesn't get it. I don't understand. What's going on? Because Susie hasn't told him why. Because Susie doesn't even really know why. She just knows that she used to want him to start doing some dishes. Interpretation for Ron. He also doesn't have any sort of experience in doing house chores since it's been so long. And so he needs some help with learning how to use the washing machine and knowing where the dish soap is. He also has his own way to carry out these tasks. Interpretation for Susie. Susie wants Ron to do more of the household chores, but she also subconsciously wants credit. Stay with me. For how well she does the dishes and how much goes into doing it right. On the other hand, she's asking for help, but she doesn't want to lose the important, significant role she plays in keeping the house clean. Now think about that for a minute. If Ron steps in and just starts doing the dishes and sweeping the floor, and maybe he doesn't do it as well, does that take away from how good a cleaner she was? Now from the outside, people are going to go, no. But for her, she has a certain way of doing it. She wants to prove, this is part of my significance. Human beings need significance to feel good. So part of her wants him to chip in and do those things, but she also wants to show him how good she does them. It's an area where she feels significant, and Ron can't just take up these activities in a day and get them right. That would just prove that it's too easy to do, and it's not that easy to clean dishes. Not the right way. He needs her to show him some things. Susie has typecasted Ron as being a man that doesn't do these things. So when he attempts to do them, she feels like he's just doing it to kiss her ass. Even then, he doesn't really do it right. Again, cementing her own legacy on how important that work is. Now, just a couple, this is an outside person looking at this, and you go, what's the alternative to Ron doing the work? If Ron makes enough money, he could tell Susie he'll get a cleaning lady. Now, if Susie goes, I don't want a cleaning lady, it'll be too expensive. What does she really want? Does she want the house cleaner and for her to do less work, or does she want to stick it to Ron? Another alternative. Is there another alternative to Ron doing the housework? Get a dishwasher. Get one of those robots that sweeps the ground. Now, if those aren't available, Susie could spend a day teaching Ron what she wants done and how she wants it done. Ron then can show her how he does it, and maybe they meet in the middle. Susie may have to accept that there are more ways than one to do the dishes. Now, stay with me. Now, this might be like a boring story for some of you, but it's really simplistic in showing you how a situation gets blown up. She's probably telling her friends at coffee, like, oh yeah, Ron never does the dishes. He's such a slouch. He's this and that. But did she tell him that he tried and then she knocked him down? Now Ron's telling his buddies, I don't get it. I don't know what happened. Why did she suddenly start wanting me to help out? Well, if you notice on sentence number 2 or 3 of the story, recently her mother fell ill and she had to go to her home and make meals and do housework for her. People only have so big a battery. That was a turning point. Another alternative, Ron, if his schedule allows it, could say, hey, look, if you want me to help out with your mom, I can do that. Again, this would be money. Would you like me to help out, maybe get your mom a cleaning lady? Would you like me to help out, maybe get your mom a caregiver? So these are all alternatives. Maybe they don't work, but that part is probably lost. The biggest part of why she changed her behavior, suddenly her schedule and her energies changed. And she's going to be more sensitive if her mom's ill. These are things that I see right away. And someone goes, oh shit, I never thought of that. Because I have you write out your story. Right? Does that make sense? But a lot of couples, they end up starting here and it elevates. Now Ron starts getting more and more pissed and he starts going out at night. Susie starts telling her friends, Ron's changing now. And it all started because of the housework. There's always a root. But really what started it is she had to go take care of her ill mother. It's taken a lot out of her. She doesn't have as much patience, excuse me. All right, Parisa. Let me do this before I bring you on, Parisa. Let me just take a quick break. 2 minutes. Anyone that have any questions about that story I just read, let me know. Hold on a sec. All right, back on deck. Okay, so let me get Parisa. All right, can you hear me okay?
Hello, yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Absolutely good. Okay, good. You finally caught me. Good. This is a
Yeah.
kind of an odd time for the other people. It's 4:30 for me, so it's not bad at all. So
Okay.
let's go through. Hold on a second.
This is all happening as I'm like writing my thesis, so like
Oh
it's
no.
all very, yeah, it's not great.
What's your, refresh my memory? What's your field that you're studying?
The brain, Alzheimer's disease. So I can't wait to stop being a student and just have a job and earn a salary. Honestly, like it's tiring.
So you're studying Alzheimer's?
Yeah, my research is mainly based on Alzheimer's.
Interesting. Do you feel like you're becoming an expert on other things related to relationships now that you're having a
Yeah,
few?
I could write a thesis on relationships and personal growth than Alzheimer's. The
It's funny when
irony.
it's amazing about the internet now. Like if you really go to town on things, you could listen to all the people that you would listen to in lectures and universities and different things like that. So a lot of times people ask me like, where did you learn what? I'm like, I watch a lot of this stuff too, on
Yeah,
relationships and different things. It's pretty interesting.
exactly.
All right. So if I remember correctly, he had went out with some friends and some girl was on his Instagram. Was that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yes.
that, and the girl was on it. Let me just see if I can remember. The girl was on his
Yeah.
Instagram. He had went out drinking. He didn't tell you about it, but he later came clean about that. He didn't think it was that big a deal. You did. He told you the truth. You didn't feel like he had cheated, but you just lost some trust. And you also are in a long distance thing, correct?
Yes, that's right. 2.5 hours away.
Okay. And he has met your parents, which is a big deal for you.
And I've met his, yeah.
Okay. So, and you're in your early 30s, right?
Yeah.
31, 33. Okay.
Yeah, 32. So yeah, basically, I felt like since December, well, I do think, well, our relationship, we started messaging in July. Well, we met end of June. The whole of July we were messaging, and I think I told you before where I thought he had been single for some time, but then it came out that he was actually still with his girlfriend until early July, and we were messaging. And this all came out after we became official, because I guess if he told me any like sooner, I would have potentially walked away. So yeah,
But that was
like
a long distance relationship also?
no, actually, they were living together. He breaks up after like a week after having met me. Actually, they were in the process of buying a house together. They'd been together for 5 years. I know it's ridiculous and absurd, but
It's okay.
but then I think had he told me any time sooner, like I think I have the moral compass to be like, well, no. But because I think I got a bit emotionally invested and I liked the relationship, I didn't overlook it, but I guess I stayed. And so
I mean, looking back at that situation, you can look at it now, but I mean, probably even though it just happened a week after he started talking to you, it was probably already over. You know what I mean? Like he probably already had a premise. Yeah, it seems maybe not in all honesty, but if you guys worked out as a couple, it's not so bad. But if you connect it to other things that are untrustworthy, then it becomes elevated, right? If that's the only thing. But if you connect it to other things, but the fact that a week after you started talking, broke up, so it's not like he carried it on for a long time. And if they were together 5 years, and living together, sometimes people that live together, sometimes they're done 6 months prior to breaking up.
but
So
I
that
guess
could,
the bad thing is that when we were talking, they slept together, and it was her way of trying to salvage their relationship because it had gone stale from what he said. And actually, I queried him about it. He didn't just come out and say it. But then it made me feel odd because I guess it made me feel like, one, what is your loyalty? Like, it just questioned me about his loyalty and how it would potentially replicate if he was to have a relationship with me. I think those were the things that were like the red flags in my head.
Okay.
But then, so the whole of July we spoke, and then beginning of August we became official, and then until I think November, he really put me on a pedestal. Like, he was sending me so many long messages. Like, there was a lot of, I don't know whether I'd call it love bombing because it wasn't merely one way, but I think he definitely instigated the pace of the relationship and definitely the communication. He definitely set the lead for that. And I thought, well, this is good and whatever. But then from December, and actually I think it was when I told you about the stuff that happened and how I acted unreasonable when he'd gone out with his good friend that was a female. They'd been in a bar drinking. But yeah, I think you kind of remember that. So since then, in December, he became a bit, I guess, unsure about us. And so we took like a week away from each other just to reflect. I wouldn't say it was a break, but it was less communication. And then we reunited at the end of that week, and which was around before Christmas time. And I basically, said to him where I went wrong and how I would be accountable for what I'd done. And genuinely, since that time on, like, I did not ever bring up anything similar of like as an issue anymore. So like, I really made the change, even though there were other instances after that where he would be in a similar situation, but I guess he was also making the changes in terms of he was making it so they would be all in friendship groups rather than one-on-one. But even if he hadn't, I wouldn't have gone out of my way to make a big deal about it, having gone through what we went through. So like, I just thought, well, I might as well trust, and then if I do see something, then I'll think about what I'm going to do next.
Good. Give the benefit of the doubt.
Right, exactly. And then, but I did feel like since December, he just pulled away. Like, I think we weren't having deep conversations like we used to. And I think if ever I wanted to speak about the relationship or us, not even in a negative light, just to check in, just to see how we are and stuff, he would want to like avoid the subject altogether. And once I remember him even saying that I'm a doer, not a talker. And I was like, well, actually, in my head, I was thinking it was because the fact that you were a talker that attracted me in the first place. But all of a sudden you're a doer. I didn't say that, but I thought it. So like, I just felt like he was pulling away. And like, more recent instances is where like I was trying to move out my parents because I felt like I needed the space because my parents were being difficult in the sense that I guess they weren't really accepting of my relationship because they're more conservative.
Sure.
In terms of like how a relationship should be in, the day in, day out of it. And so I thought, well, I'll move in with my friend. I'm at the end of my thesis. And then, I moved to London. So there was a lot of stress and anxiety because I had a lot going on. And then,
well, let me just interject. I'm listening. Just to rewind back to him kind of pulling away and talking, were you, when you were like, I was just talking about the future of the relationship, so when he pulled away, what were the things that you kept bringing up, like marriage, kids?
No. I would not do that at that stage. I just felt like we weren't at the stage. I brought up like whether we are happy the way we are, just merely checking in, whether like the stuff that we had in the past that was going on, how we're going to build on those. Like, it was all positive, potentially addressing the negatives, but nothing like putting in the pressure on at all.
Was there during, like, because you said you'd identified December as the time when things kind of shifted.
Yeah.
So was there anything else that happened in December, such as a job change or seeing each other less?
So there was going to be a job change because we were both applying to work in Europe. So that was actually one of the topics that I did bring up. I said, so like, I've been thinking about how we're going to have our accommodations. Should we like get separate ones? Should we, if we do get one, then I thought it was best that we have like set our own space, because I felt like it's too early to be merging, but our situation is causing the merge. But I also didn't want it to cause like the demise of the relationship. So I was trying to put all these things like forward to him, and he was talking about it, but it wasn't like before. So we had like a vague and rough plan, but I could sense that he wasn't in it, because he was always the enthusiastic one, and I felt like the tables had turned and I had become him and he had become me. So like, I could sense it, but then I kept on putting off Perosa. Maybe you're like being cynical here. And I tried to again give the benefit of the doubt. I thought perhaps after that incident that obviously overwhelmed him about my unreasonable behavior, I thought like, maybe I am being a bit needy, clingy. I need to just draw back, try and spread my attention and energy with my friends, with my work, so I don't like get off balance in life as in general, because I just don't think that's healthy. And I could see myself going down that path. So basically, I started to like pull back a bit, not in a malicious way, but like in a more healthy way. And then but I almost felt like he was not really, again, not in it. And I just overlooked it. And then like,
what are some examples of like what comes to mind first when you say like he wasn't in it?
Like, I guess the communication had dropped from his side, and
just
like
how many times he called you in the day, or what do you
yeah,
mean by
like he hardly called me. And like, for example, if I would say I am sad about something, he would make a joke about something irrelevant and not address like my emotions. And I thought, okay, like I would joke back, because then I thought I don't want to be that overbearing like person. Like, he isn't my emotional like crutch here. I shouldn't be relying on him. But I did feel like he was pulling back. Like, he would, I don't know whether he had ADHD or something, like he would kept on like repeating one word in his messages. Like, he would just say not good, and like he was trying to be funny about it, but it was almost annoying because I felt like we weren't having real conversations. It was very hollow. Our conversations from his side had become very hollow.
Good word, hollow. I know what you mean by that. I've never used that word for that, but I see what you're saying. It's just black substance, right? So where it didn't before, so where there's smoke, there's fire. Yeah, something shifted. And if you started in December talking more about what you were going to do when you moved to Europe, and maybe this shifted him. Some men do not like to have long-winded conversations. You know, obviously I do.
He loved it.
Okay, so he did in the beginning. Some guys
Exactly.
don't. So some guys are just short on words. It's just how
he would write me essays, like even if it wasn't like talking. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, I would have to scroll and scroll, and sometimes I'd put my phone on airplane mode just because I didn't have enough time to reply to it at that moment. So like, he was very articulate in that way, even in messaging, even in writing.
Circumstances change. Like I said, something changed that changed the behavior. And usually it's a job, or I was even going to ask you, you know, moving to London with your friend compared to living with your parents, wherever that it was or is.
Yeah.
Is a big change too. Did that affect things for you at all?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, like for me, it was a massive shift. I moved back now because one, she had a
It
lot going
affected.
on. And yeah, the hygiene, like, I'm not really like an OCD person, but like the hygiene was lacking majorly. And it was out of her kindness that she was like making room for me. So I thought I am in no position to say anything or to do anything. But it wasn't like good at all. Like I could not live in those conditions. But I was,
Roommates are tough in your 30s.
yeah, but she is lovely. Like as a person, she's lovely. I
Yeah.
could see her.
Roommates are
Yeah,
different. Yeah, it's not a knock on their friendship or their enduring qualities or whatever.
yeah.
It's just
And she has
you're set
kids,
in
so
your ways.
like it was like chaotic as well. And I thought, no, you know, I will not be able to write anything up. But even then, I think for the relationship, I was willing to withstand all of that. I was trying to figure out because I thought I can't just backtrack now. You know, I'm trying to improve the situation globally. So I will, even then I stayed. And it was actually after the breakup I'd moved back because I was like, well, what's keeping me here? Really? I'll go and get my own place when I'm getting some salary and stuff. So like I thought there's no rush or urgency now. But yeah, like also I felt like he was like, for example, one weekend, actually the last weekend before we broke up, I was meant to go to see his family. It was his grandma's birthday. And because he had an interview coming up the following Monday, he questioned me as to whether I still wanted to go with him. And I asked why, because he said, well, I would be getting there like later on a Friday and leaving earlier on a Sunday, and I know you're paying a lot. But then I could see through it. Like I could almost see through that he almost didn't want me there. So I got it.
I'm sorry, let me interject. This is a family interview. What was it again?
No. It was his grandma's birthday.
Grandma's birthday. Okay, I
Yeah,
misunderstood what you said. I'm
then
sorry.
he had an interview the following Monday
Okay, that's where I got the interview part. Okay.
for a job abroad. And he was basically making the case that if I still wanted to go, he was almost encouraging me or persuading me not to go, essentially.
Which is something he wouldn't have done in the past. He would have been happy for you to come to his grandma's birthday.
Right. And actually, he's the one who's invited me to it. I didn't say to him, I want to join your family gatherings. He invited me to it. And for him to come midweek and say, because actually I was like, when should I buy the tickets? And this is when we spoke about it. And he was persuading me not to go in a way.
And you weren't complaining about the cost.
I wasn't. And I said to him, well, like, I'm the one paying. And I just feel like it's all a bit weird now. And I didn't understand it. And he was just like, no, why are you always, he went a bit irate on me. He was like, no, why are you always looking for issues? I'm looking out for your best interest. And I was fairly calm because I just didn't know what was going on. And I was like, well, I appreciate that, but like, it's fine. It's not going to cost that much anyway. But like, I don't know, it felt like he didn't want me there. But having said that, I still thought maybe I'm being cynical. Maybe I'm trying to see.
Have friends and family members told you you can be cynical?
No.
Okay. Thought about it for a minute, huh?
No, I think I'm one to like.
Because you keep using that term, so I'm just wondering, do you identify with that yourself?
Self-blame. No, I think I self-blame. I think even when I see something, I'll think of where I've gone wrong in the matter rather than where they've gone wrong. Or
you can just agree to disagree. Like you could have, like a lot of communication now because there's so much dating with different cultures. And when I say different cultures, it doesn't necessarily just mean different races. It could mean a surfer with someone that's a psychologist. That's a different culture. You know what I'm saying?
I get you.
So there's misunderstandings. So sometimes, like he could have genuinely been like, well, a few times you've mentioned, in the past month about money or something like that. And he thought he was doing a one-up for you to not have to spend that money. where you took it the other way. Saying that, if you feel like it's out of character because you know him better than I do, and you feel like he was excited to see me, something's weird here.
Yeah.
Then I would say, yeah, probably there is.
I think in the context of him pulling away and him being less involved in our relationship was probably what was triggering it as well. I think had it been like how it was, or at least not such a drastic shift, then I probably would have felt more secure. In essence, I felt insecure in what was. And then I said to him, like, I got a bit sad, and then I told him about the whole skiing thing as well. So we were meant to go skiing with his friends, like, as in all the couples were meant to go skiing. But then after that break thing we had, he mentioned that perhaps, like, because it would be my first time and I would need to learn, and I'm writing a thesis, that I shouldn't go, and that he may not even go. But then it ended up that he's actually going to go with the lads in the end, and I got a bit annoyed at that as well. I was like, well, okay, you're like getting me like involved in all of these things ahead of time, and then like you're taking me out of things. That's how I felt.
But the other guys didn't take their girlfriends.
No, so originally it was going to be like a couples thing,
right?
But then it transitioned to like a lads thing. And then he was like, I may not go, but in the end he ended up wanting to go. And I got a bit like, I did get a bit funny about it, but not explicitly, but implicitly, yeah, I got a bit funny about it as well. Because I just felt like I was being like taken out of it. But then I did like self-talk a bit and was like, well, actually, I shouldn't behave in this way. So like I tried, in the end I sent him a message, because you know how about the whole drinking thing and all the trust issues that we were having. I just sent him a message saying, you know what, this trip will be a good example of a way that we can build on our trust. And so I tried to put a positive twist on it to make it less awkward as a topic for both of us. But I think he understood that in a negative light, and he probably thought that actually I was trying to like point out the whole distrustful thing and almost controlling in a way, but I merely didn't mean it that way at all.
Where have you been at the last? So when did you exactly break up?
End of January. The whole, yeah. So the whole grandma thing, the trip. I bought my ticket. I was going to go the following day, and then he calls me up the night before and says, my tire, like there's something happened to his tire. I think his tire burst or something on his car.
Okay, possibly.
Yeah. I was very much paranoid about that, because it was like, oh, okay, now your tire burst. And then no, but I didn't say that. I did think it, to be fair. And then I just said, well, it's really bad what I said next, but bear with me. I said, what about my tickets? Because I couldn't return them at that point. And it sounded like he'd caused an inconvenience.
Wait. When your tire burst or flat tire, you can get that fixed pretty quickly.
Well, apparently he was talking about like a nut. He kept on going with like into extra detail about a nut and a bolt coming off. I just felt,
oh, okay,
I don't know, there was something. I'm not saying his tire didn't burst, but I felt some insincere tone. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just not a trusting person. I don't know.
Well, like I said, you've known him longer than I have, so you're going to notice inconsistencies. Like I said, intuition's stronger with someone who knows someone longer. That's just facts, right? So if you felt that, you could be leading yourself into something that's not true. But, asking about your ticket, it's not totally out of line. If you pressed like you just don't care about his safety and stuff, this goes into that appreciation thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then actually, when I really thought about it, Mac, like it wasn't about the tickets at all. Like it was because I felt insecure in the relationship, and I tried to mask it as an inconvenience, but it was because I hadn't seen him since of like start of January.
That was gonna be that was my question on deck, is like, how often have you been seeing each other the last few months?
So like it was like, I think it was around 14th of January was the last time we saw each other. And because I'd been stressed with the whole moving thing, I guess I felt like I wanted to reunite even more than before. Like I think I needed that. And then when I said the tickets, like I've lost more money than how much those tickets cost before. So that wasn't really, when I really thought about it, it was because I was feeling insecure and I felt like, okay, if this plan is falling through, then are we going to see each other? So I said, what about the tickets? And then having reflected on that, when I put the phone down, I did message him without him provoking it or instigating it. I was like, by the way, when I said the tickets, I meant more about seeing each other. So I tried to like communicate to him that I'm not this selfish person that just cares about what I, my own situation. And then he messaged me saying, well, yeah, it's sad and it's a bit selfish. He didn't really, it's like I sent him the message for him to understand, but I guess he wasn't receptive at that point and just continued being negative about it. And then I just said, okay, I see how that came across. And then that night I spoke to him and he was like, yeah, my car has been put in a garage away from where I live, because I had driven like 10 minutes from where I live and stuff, and I had to carry my stuff back and everything. And I was like, oh, are you okay? I was trying to like be less self-focused at that time. And then I said, so do you think, are we going to see each other, like irrespective of this situation? And then he was like, I don't know. And then I was like, okay. I was like, well, I want to see you. Do you not want to see me? Like, I feel it's weird that it's not reciprocated. And he was like, no, I was excited, but I don't know. After that, I don't want to. I was just thinking, well, like,
So,
what do you know?
just to get context to this, the part that he's talking about is the fact that he had the flat tire or the car trouble, and you went straight to talking about the tickets rather than asking how he is, how the car is. That's the problem.
No. Yeah, like that call happened and then he had to go, so we put the phone down. That is when I sent the text about, by the way, when I said the tickets, I meant about seeing each other. Do you see? And then he called again to give me update of what was happening. There we spoke about his car, his situation.
I'm exhausted listening to this shit, man. Go ahead. I'm listening. I'm listening.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. It's okay. That's what I do.
And then he said, we spoke about his car, and then I just said, well, like, I understand how that came across. It was me because I wanted us to see each other. Like, do you want to see each other irrespective of all of those? He was like, I don't know, I'm not sure. And then I was just like, well, do you want us to be together? He was like, I don't know. And I was just like, okay, do you want us to break up? And he was like, yeah, maybe. And then that was the end of that call.
Well, that's timing. That's probably one of the worst times. Like when someone's pretty frustrated about their car, if that really happened with his tire and the nuts and bolts, he's probably frustrated. So like I said earlier, people don't think about when people pull the trigger on breaking up. Sometimes it's been premeditated for months, right? Sometimes it's been on deck for years. It's all kinds of things. Sometimes it's like, I'm in a really bad mood right now and you're bringing this up now. Fuck it. So I'm not saying that's what happened with him, but timing and circumstances, it probably wasn't the most patient time for him to talk about those things. But just listening to you talk about this, I think the fact, how long have you guys been in long distance?
Like close to 7 months.
Say again?
7 months.
7 months. And when things are good, you're 2.5 hours apart. You're seeing each other once a week or once a month. I forgot.
Pretty regularly, I would say, out of like 3 weekends in a month at least. We were seeing each other before.
So that's good. So then December, it fell off to like once a month?
Yeah, because I guess of like the holidays and stuff, and then the
timing,
break as well.
It's not anything personal. It's just stuff's come up around your schedule. It's not like he's going. So not being able to see each other and then most guys, not all, they don't want to talk as much. It's like, all right, I'm done talking. And you're like, well, why can't we talk longer? Why can't we talk more about this or
But it
dissect
was
this?
more in person. Like, we were hardly having any phone calls. It was more when it
Oh.
came to in-person talks. Yes, that is
Wow.
what stung a bit. And actually, he would always like say "I love you" in messages or like over the phone, and then he stopped all of that altogether as well.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I actually said to him, I was like, is everything okay? This is probably why I was more wanting to check in as well. But then he made out that everything was okay. And then the following day after that whole car issue, I get a long essay, just like the ones I used to get before, except like a breakup one. And then
what was the context of it?
He basically said he's sorry that he's feeling this way, and he's sorry for the way it's come out, but he didn't think it was a big surprise because we've had big issues between us since December, and that he said he doesn't know exactly what happened, but it was probably that we argued too much and lost too much quality early on the relationship. And he said that he stopped telling me that he loves me, and that he was being less affectionate, but he was putting that down to him having enjoyed having his own space more and enjoying his own comfort more.
Okay.
And he said the honest truth is that he does think that he loves me, or at least cares about me, but embarking on the whole moving away with how uncertain our situation is not the right thing, and that he notices that he's not being himself around me more and more, and that ultimately if we did try, like, we would go back to where we've ended up in, and that we would lose more quality, and that the whole skiing trip comment that I made, and amongst the whole ticket thing and everything, were like reasons why he feels alone, even though I think I'd explained those, and that he thought that the beauty of us that was our differences, that he feels like the differences are too much, and about my whole spirituality.
You wrote all this in one text?
Yeah, and the whole spirituality.
And you a lot of stuff here.
I guess that was one part of him that I really liked because he was so articulate, but perhaps not the last message. And my awkwardness around his friends, even the things that we had fixed, like the whole thing about him meeting his friends and stuff. So he was bringing everything up about my life goals, and
he built a case.
He built a good case, but not really a good one, in my opinion, because half of those
that's what
things
people
were
do when they
fixed.
break up. Yeah. Well, that's good that you're identifying the problems that are fixable and the ones that aren't. The one that stood out while you were talking, and the one that was circling back in my head that I didn't get to mention, but you mentioned it, or he mentioned it first. You are going to have an upcoming living situation where, again, you're going into long distance for an indefinite amount of time. Is that correct?
Not really. It was more like I was going to go out wherever we were going to go and really finish my thesis there if I needed to, because I would need to be here in person.
But I mean, what's your finish line to eventually move to the same city? Or
it would have been very soon. It would have been very soon. I think had he secured a place, I would have dipped into my savings, and then we would have gone on from there. It wasn't unfeasible, or that there was going to be a long distance situation.
Well, it sounds like the stuff that he disclosed in that closing statement was a lot of the stuff that you were already feeling, like throwing in the extra sauce of the friends thing, where you're like, well, we kind of fixed that, or you know what I mean? That's just I said, building a case. But the awkwardness that you felt was real on his end, him worrying about this new living situation. It sounds like just taking the next step of being closer to each other. He's not as interested as you are, or keen to do it as you are. And that could be for a variety of reasons. The other end of this is you come back to multiple times saying that you're cynical. You don't know if you're just too cynical, and that you're insecure. If you feel like it's because of his actions or the long distance, it's one thing. But if you feel like, the way this relationship went, it's not just you, it's the situations that came up. Those are two different things. Because sometimes someone that's really insecure or cynical are going to be that way in any situation, right? So if they're, with colleagues or, any partner, you could be insecure, or anyone that says certain things. But it sounds like in this particular situation that he started to change because you both.
Yeah, for sure.
What was interesting to me is you said December, he said December in the last text, so you were on the same page about that.
But
something.
to be honest, like when he did the whole Instagram like exchange thing, like I think I was gonna walk away then from him actually, but then like I just feel like I dropped it, whereas he didn't. Do you see what I mean? And I think that's probably where our differences are, because the whole December thing was mainly to do with me being on his case about the bar drinking thing, right? Which then I corrected. So like I just feel like perhaps he wasn't as invested as he made out to be, and he was saying all the right words, and because he really was, like when I tell you like he used to write and write, like it was intense. I'd never seen anything in my life before.
Don't be surprised. Well, I mean, you guys came back from that situation with the Instagram, because that's when you talked to me last time, when that was fresh, and you were kind of wavering in a gray area where you're like, we're kind of broken up, if I remember correct. Like you weren't.
I was so almost done with it, but then I just thought to myself,
and you were like, we're not gonna talk again, or this or that. I'm like, maybe it works through. So one thing that I've noticed about him, to give him credit, is he divulged a lot, like in that closing text. So he didn't like sit there and give you vague reasons or kind of cryptic. He laid everything out there of what he was feeling through text. So if you're like, oh, I need closure, I need to understand this better, those were his feelings, whether you believe it or not. I think that's how he was feeling. Now, feelings can change. Circumstances can change. Timing can change. A month or 2 months. You guys weren't together that long. No. But you said it was really deep and it was really good.
It was so intense. Yeah.
It was really good. So
like he was crying on the phone as like we had a FaceTime after that long essay. And I was sitting there like smiling, because when I get really sad, I go into this protective mode. You will not see emotions on my face. Whereas he was like sobbing, and I felt like really awkward because I didn't know whether I should be the one consoling him. So I said, like, breathe, don't cry. Like I said, shouldn't I be the sad one here? Like I was almost making him laugh in the middle of like that conversation because it was weird. And then I guess I really didn't want to let go, Mac, but I just feel like he's so set on it. And like at the end of the day, I said,
that's why you didn't cry, because it wasn't over to you. You're like, nah, this is now the fucking book ended.
Yeah.
So like to you, you were like, what are you crying about? I know we're breaking up, but not really.
So but also I don't allow people to see my emotions until I feel really safe. And then I said to him, like, look, there needs to be a mutual will for this. And I wasn't the one who like pursued this in the first place. So like, I don't know, like since yesterday, having received the messages again about him being sad and that he thinks it's the right decision, I don't know whether to just not ghost him, but to just leave it, because I feel like he's broken up with me like 5 times now.
Okay, so let's talk about that. My first question is going to be like right now, after talking about this, airing this out a little bit more, unpacking it, talking about it. Right now, what do you want if everything went right? What do you want for you?
Ideal, I would have just pulled back a bit, not a bit, a fair amount. I would have pulled back, but the relationship would have been there still. Like if I'm being totally honest, I don't think I was done.
Wait, because my question doesn't involve changing what happened in the past. It involves present. presently.
Uh,
That's okay. That's okay. Just misunderstood me. No problem. What I mean is right now, present moment. What do you want? You want to get back together? You want to take some time away? You like, because a lot of times what we look at is like, what is he thinking? What is his move? It's like, what do you really want? Do you want him back? Do you need some time to think about this? Because it sounds like even though he was the one that kind of broke up with you, you have issues here too.
I do.
Like, you have some things you're unhappy with too, and you got a fucking thesis that's really heavy on your mind. You just
Yeah.
tried to move out, which was not a good experience, but you made an effort. So that takes time and energy to move. And I've been there before in my life, moved many times, and it's like you got to get back in the routine of wherever you move back to. So I would say that for you right now, are you better off putting this relationship on the shelf for a moment because he gave you pretty good closure in what he's saying to you. He's giving you all the reasons why. And this hasn't been just wreckage on the road. Crazy. There's no cheating being done. There's no like mean comments or anything like that.
No.
Right?
It came out at the end, like when he spoke about it was more like we're different. And the irony is that apparently we were so similar to start off with, and now we're all so different that it's incompatibility, and I don't buy it. I think he wrote that, but then when he spoke about it, he was saying some absurd things like you don't know how to ski, or like do you do group social activities. I felt so like mind blown by what he was saying.
Just building a case like a lawyer would, just like someone that's academic, someone that's research based, and I don't know him. They make cases for things. So that's what he's doing. Is it bad? No, that's just who he is. So he made a decision. He's questioning it. So he's grabbing all the information of why he's making the right decision. Now, here's the thing. That's all logical. That's mind-based, right? Okay. And maybe he's a mind-based guy. Most guys are mind-based. They use logic and reason to the best of their abilities. We have mind, heart, and gut. Those are our three feeling measures, right? And there's some people that are all heart, and you're like, God, you're stupid. Because you don't use your mind, right? So there's some people that are all gut because they're like, oh, I have intuition. I know when everything's coming. It's like intuition can be wrong when you really want something. So I'm saying right now, he's strongly leading with his mind. But when you don't talk to him for 2-3 weeks, because you've never done that yet, right?
I have. So I fully stopped contacting him from the 12th. No, sorry, from the 2nd. And then I broke no contact on the 14th.
Happy Valentine's Day.
No, honestly, like to me, that's nonsense for me personally. It was merely a coincidence.
It's
but
okay
also, I
if
think
it was. It's
no,
okay.
honestly, like it's too cheesy and cringy for me personally. I don't find that to be a special day in that sense. But no, so the coincidence, it did fall on that day, and I did want to talk about my stuff because he said he would send it, but he didn't, and he wasn't messaging me about it.
What's your stuff? I'm sorry, about your thesis or?
No. So I had some stuff at his place.
Oh, okay. Literally your stuff. Okay.
Yeah, the stuff. And then he said he would send it, and then he didn't. And then I just thought, well, to be honest, this stuff was an excuse. I guess the real underlying reasons was maybe I wanted to reconnect. I mean, who are we kidding here? And that is, I guess, I use that to mask reconnecting.
It's okay. It's okay. So you do want to reconnect and revisit things? So that's why you did ask him for a coffee and he said no. And
he said, I don't think that's a good idea because nothing's changed for me. And I was like, okay, anyway, moving back to getting my stuff back. And then.
Well, that wasn't lost. You needed to get that out. It's been 2 weeks. You wanted to ask.
So silly.
No. There's no reason to feel silly. Every one of the people that's watched my show or watched anything, we've all been rejected. We've all felt like, oh, I really want something and someone didn't want to do it. It's okay. It's not a big deal. Now you got your clarity. He's not interested in doing that. He doesn't want to talk about it. So now it's time to go back to no contact unless you have another alternative. Because I even tell people sometimes, If you really want to break no contact, go ahead. It's not the end of the world. If you need clarity, everyone's different. Some people are like, I have to. If I don't talk to them, I have to. It's like, go ahead then. And then they're like, but I have to do no. You don't have to do anything.
To be honest, Mac, like I do think because he hadn't sent my stuff, I was seeing that I was reading too much into that. And I think I was almost thinking, well, does he actually want things to drag out? Like, I think, one, I wanted to reconnect. Two, I thought perhaps he's having second thoughts. And actually, during our phone call, he was like, maybe I'll regret this in a month. And then he was like, I'm not sure. And then he was just like, at one point, he was like, maybe we can go back to the good old times. Like, he was back and forth. But as of recent, I just feel like he's more set on that decision now. He's more consistent.
Everything you've told me about him in the last 7 months hasn't been, you haven't predicted every one of his moves yet, have you? So why would you do it now, right? That resonates, because what you're telling me is you seem to want to put everything together, and sometimes you're right. This is probably what you do with your schoolwork.
I'm a fixer, yeah.
Right. This is probably what you do at work. Like this is probably your field of work and different things like that. So you transfer it over to this, and you're trying to figure everything out. This is feeling based. It's relationship based, and don't discount if he's like, well, maybe in a month. He just planted a seed subconsciously for himself. So he just gave himself that time frame right there. He usually, when people break up, they're not going to get talked out of it or kind of like talked into doing something. He needs to miss you. He needs to feel like you're not going to call him and then the tables turn. And it's like, wait a minute, I thought she'd call me. So I don't think he was playing games with your stuff or anything like that. I think he probably was thinking in the back of his head, because I've been doing this a long time, and people always are like, from both sides, should I send this stuff? Should I leave it on my porch? Like, it's a big deal for a lot of people. It is, because it's the last thing, and it can lead to hooking up again. It can lead to things, but this sounds like for both of you, maybe a month is a good amount of time. And it sounds like the good part is he's not holding anything like, I can't believe you did that to me, or I can't believe you're this. He's like, he needs to have time to ponder if the case he built is good enough to overcome his heart and his feelings. And he needs to sit in it for a little bit. And you need to sit on the other end of that, work on your thesis and figure out what you want to do. And also take some time, because you got some decisions to make once you get done with your thesis. And also, right, like, this isn't something you did wrong.
No, even when I apologized in our last phone call for the stuff, for any comments that I made that may have been misinterpreted, I really wanted to clear my own conscience of everything. So during that conversation about the coffee and the stuff, I apologized wholeheartedly, and I went through details. And in his message last night, he was like, I really appreciated your apology, your reflection. However, I don't think you did anything wrong in our relationship. I am sorry for my mistakes and ultimately the demise of us.
You guys are two little academics, huh? You cite sources on those texts too? That's so funny.
But he definitely thinks that it's the right decision, even if it's hard now.
Well, listen, hun, it's the right decision right now. It's the right decision right now, but in a month or 2 months, maybe he changes his mind. He's certainly leaving the door open with a few of his comments.
But like those are far in the past now.
But there's no wreckage. There's no serious wreckage on the road. I'll tell you how you can make it worse is if you keep calling him and keep asking him to explain his decision. He needs time and space to miss you. And it sounds like if you guys were long distance for 6-7 months, you met each other's parents, there was something legitimately there. You weren't just grasping for straws or like love bombed or anything like that. Sounds like you had a legitimate relationship that had some timing and circumstances involved. There's no coincidence there that when this Instagram thing happened, it kind of stirred things up for you on insecurities. And from there, you changed a little bit more questioning. And then also you have this thing where you guys are moving somewhere new. You got school. You got a lot of moving parts here. So give yourself a break a little bit. And then you go off and go, fuck it, I'm going to move to London with a friend. And then roommates' problems become your problems, and their sanitary issues and all those things become, you know what I mean? It's like So you had some of those things. So now just take your breath, do your best to focus on school, because that's going to come first. Are you able to compartmentalize school and keep it separate, or is it affecting that right now?
It's affecting it, if I'm being honest. Like, it's really consumed me a bit. And I didn't think I'd be this affected.
Well, I'd recommend then, if you want to book a session to do EFT and hypnotherapy, to maybe clean that up a little bit. It's not going to cure you of your things, but it'll help you with dealing with that, so you can actually study.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
I need to finish this, because it's already overdue, and like, it couldn't have happened at a worse time, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, you're just locked in a spot right now. And if it's affecting that, I would definitely suggest we do EFT and a little hypnotherapy and clean that up. And then at least you have some techniques and some things that can get you to get your school done, because you don't want that getting in the way. And then the other stuff, though, this is how relationships in this day and age, sometimes they can be 6-7 months, and people change. People can change, but I wouldn't say that this is completely dust the way it sounds. I mean, him taking that much time to write you doesn't mean he hates you or dislikes you. He still has feelings for you. He's just questioning how strong they are.
And do you think I should reply to the last message, or should I just leave it?
What was the last message?
So the last message was about him saying that he appreciated my apology, but he's ultimately the cause for the demise. He's sad, and even though he thinks it's hard now, it's the right decision. And he said, because of our phone call, he was a bit short with me, and so he was saying that I think the sadness was why I was a bit unfair on the phone last night, as I kind of wanted to get off the phone and be on my own, I guess. Do I reply to any of that? And for the fact that he's also like apologized for his mistakes in a very generic way, or do I just leave it and not reply?
So what's your intention in not replying?
Because I don't want this dragged out. Like, I don't want another whole thing about another essay.
Good idea. Good. I'm with you. I would say, if you want to leave it really clean, as simple and sweet as you can put, okay, I understand. Okay, I accept that. Okay, I understand where you're coming from. And don't put any like love. And I think that's true.
Because I don't necessarily understand it, but I accept it.
Okay. Because to me, people, especially women, when they're on the other end of this, are like, okay, what does okay mean? It's like, you're just okay with it? So you kind of flip the tables, where you give them a neutral comment that's clean, acceptable to everyone that speaks English. Okay, I accept it. I'm not gonna ask more questions or put you on the spot or give you the benefit of the doubt. You're just saying, okay, I accept how you feel. Okay, I accept what you said. I accept it. Very short and clean. So then when he's reflecting, because he's gonna reflect, he's already reflecting, and he's like, wow, she just accepted it. Because a lot of people, it's surprising when someone can write something like that. If you just went, okay, period.
But I feel like he's broken up like 5 times, once over FaceTime, once on an essay, once on an audio call. And then it's like every time, like, okay, like, and I don't know whether like.
Well, if that's the case over 7 months, if it's been multiple times, then he's just not ready to be in a relationship right now.
No, I meant as in our last breakup spanned from end of January, and we've been on and off in contact, and he keeps on like saying this. Do you see what I mean?
So then I would just tell you like to write, okay, I accept it, and then it's just clean, and now the ball's in his court to say something that is no longer sorry, no longer explanation about the breakup, no longer you didn't do anything wrong. It's all been accepted. So when he's thinking about things, he doesn't have to think that he feels pity or he feels guilt or he feels sorry, because those aren't good things. A lot of times people, not you necessarily, but men and women through like a pity net, and it's actually makes the other person feel more disengaged, because they're like, pity's not something I feel good about.
Yeah, you don't want to log out of pity. Yeah.
So when someone can just go, okay, I accept it, you're kind of like, oh, game over? What? I thought I was expecting more pity or more guilt or more, I did something
No.
wrong. It's like, no, I accept it. It's okay. It's kind of like
But it's a
when you
better
think
move
about
than leaving it without any response, because that in
the
itself is
only,
a response, and that could just
yeah.
show that I'm sad.
Okay. So with couples that are more immature, I don't recommend
Yeah.
this, but like teenagers, like when I say teenager, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, yeah, it'll trigger them. You left me on red. Like, what the
Yeah.
fuck? And then they'll get back into it, right? But it's not like it doesn't solve the problems. It's just more like who wins, who's going to win, right? You left me on red. It's like a disrespect thing. And they're so used
Yeah.
to texting so much. So a lot of times if you leave someone on red, it kind of
Yeah.
feels like you're angry at me or you're upset with
Yeah,
me
exactly. And I don't want that.
or you don't care about me. And now if he
Mm.
ever wants to come back or call you, he's going to think you're a little bit upset. So if you could write back, okay, I understand, or okay, I accept it.
Okay.
I think that's clean. It's true. And it also leaves the door open. Like, I don't hate you without saying it. I don't not care about you without saying it. It's neutral.
Mm.
So that's what I like. If you leave it on red, people, I mean, I've had guys before, yeah, I left her on red. She called me off the hook. She's so pissed off. She can't believe I left. It's like, it doesn't seem like you guys are like that.
No.
So if you feel like that's a game you want to play, but it sounds like you kind of want to write something, and that's the cleanest way. That's a neutral response. And I like that you said, no, I don't understand, so I'm not going to write that, but I can't accept it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
Then
it's
write that.
beyond my control, and it's something that I do have to accept. And at the end of the day, like, I just feel like if I don't respond, then it in itself could be misinterpreted as I'm like I don't know. Well, I am devastated, but I don't want to come across like I'm so affected by him either. Like, I am,
Well,
but I don't want the pity.
Yeah, no, the devastated part, like I said, don't throw that on his lap, because then that's pity and guilt. He really won't want to come back. It's not attractive.
No. It's something that I feel like, I guess the breakdown of this relationship has made me sad. I'd be lying if I say it didn't.
Well, like I said, if we do a session with EFT and hypnotherapy, we'll get a little deeper in some of your other stuff that's private stuff not about the relationship, and it might be associated with this. And this is a good time in your life, if you're 32, to kind of touch on some of these things. But right now, allow yourself to be devastated. Allow yourself to be upset. Allow yourself to cry alone. You're upset. You're hurt. You put a lot into this relationship. You care about this guy. But that would probably be the best response, leaving the door open for him to feel like, okay, she doesn't hate me. Okay, she's not going to bat me over the head if I called her again. Because I don't know why. I've talked to women before that are in these situations, and they're like, oh, he did come back, but I don't want to tell him I like him. It's like, okay. So there's this game that starts, this game of poker that starts. And it's like, if he does come back, he's going to come back because he feels like you're going to be accepting, or at least neutral enough to talk to him. He doesn't want to go back, and he doesn't want to keep explaining everything. And so there might be some time in between this. But I certainly don't think that it's one of those things that he's already set the playing field that maybe I will call you in the future. Maybe down the road.
He said I'll regret it. He said, oh, maybe I'll regret this in a month, but I don't know.
So let him figure that out on his own. And if he doesn't, and you don't work out, you know what? This is a better relation. Your past relationship wasn't very good, right? Was that right or no?
It was, yeah. It was really, it ended up terribly.
Yeah. So what I tell people is, no matter what your age is, if you look at your next relationship, I hope you're getting better. It's just better matches, better connection. And sometimes, because that other one, for some reason, was like 4 or 5 years. 5 years?
It was 10 years. 10 years. 10,
oh, God, I was way off. So that's one of those ones that's heavy, right?
It was heavy.
A lot of times, people that have been in long relationship, 10, 15, 20 years, 10 applies. Their first is this your first one out of that? That's like serious?
Yeah. Because then I just took a break. I couldn't get into another one.
Totally understand. So the first one come out of that, that's good. You're like, oh my God, this is so great. And then if it doesn't work out,
Short-lived.
if it doesn't work out in 6-7 months, you're like, fuck, I was in a 10-year that sucked for 3 years. And this guy bails at 7 months. Like, what did I miss? It's a different relationship and a different person. But here's what's cool. You were able to find your strength to meet someone else and put yourself out there and be vulnerable and be in a relationships are vulnerable. It's overused, the vulnerable statement, way overused. But in relationships, it's always never a guarantee. And then you found someone that you care about again. So you proved that you can meet someone else.
I cared for him in a way more, I feel, which was like baffling to me, because I was like, surely this can't happen. But in a way, I cared more.
Well, it's a better relationship than the 10-year was towards the end. So that's going to elevate this one. That's going to elevate this one. But my point is, you just proved to yourself after a 10-year that you took a long time off, that you could meet someone else. And you're going to prove to yourself again, whatever happens with this, and you're not ready for this statement, that you can meet someone else that's equal or better to this guy. And like I said, you're not ready right now to think about that. But look at it like this. You also did better than the last guy. It's the problem when people are like consistently picking jerks. And they're like, what's wrong with me? It's like... they're not falling out of the sky. It's where you're hanging out. It's the people that you're hanging out with. It's the vibe you're giving off. So this guy sounded pretty cool. It didn't work out because of timing and circumstances, because you live 2.5 hours apart, because some of the things he likes to do, you don't like to do. This isn't some of the things that you need to like, oh my God, I need to change or he needed to change. Just get some space from this, both of you. Get your schooling done, right? Let's do some work on some of your stuff that has to do with just you.
Yeah, I need to book that interview.
Yeah, and that'll help out with, like, you have to admit with this, a few times you felt a little overly insecure, and it wasn't just him. It could be part of that to you.
Yeah, for sure.
So this is the time to work on. I just had a client recently that we've done some work, and he came out of a really good relationship that went bad the last few months, and it was like, all right, let's like work on you with the EFT and hypnotherapy. And there was a few things that came up that we cleaned up. And he was like, fuck, I didn't know I was holding that so tight. Like he was, this was like a 6'2" big guy, strong, plays rugby. And he had a couple issues that actually he didn't know was affecting his insecurity around her friends. And so it's deeper than, he makes me feel insecure sometimes. There's something else to that.
Yeah, it's like the iceberg thing. There's so much more rooted.
Yeah, and then when you get to that, it'll be more... The crazy thing is, because of the breakup, you'll be ready to do that. You'll be ready to do that. Where if you're in the relationship, there's no consequences. You're like, I'm not going to do that. And then something happens, and you're like, oh shit, I really overreacted. Well, you were triggered by something that happened in your past. Like, everyone has triggers. And it's weird. Because if you when you start doing what I do, you're like, oh, so what happened to you when you were young with the cats? Because someone walks outside, outside and they're like running away from a cat, right? Or they're doing like we do that with all kinds of things. Like someone can say a word or a food and you're like gagging. It's like, what? It's just something from your past. And the minute you go back and clean it up, you take the charge out of it. You're like, oh shit. Like, how could people have phobias and then get rid of them? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So
yeah, I know. I think with that message and just focusing on myself now and sort of letting it be is the way to go forward. And then I'll book that in with you and just like work on myself, really. That's all I can think of, because I'm just drained. I am drained from all of this.
Definitely book a session. We'll do some deeper work, and I'll help you with a couple techniques to help you get into your studying, because you got to put that first right now. I mean, I
need to. Yeah,
that's understandable. And give yourself a break. Like, this is the first relationship you've been in a while. It was pretty good until it wasn't, and then you did the best you could in that situation with what That's a lot of times we're actually, everyone's doing the best they can with what they know. A lot of times, how they were raised or where they come from. So, is that helpful today?
Thank you very much for your time. Yeah, that was really helpful. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry to divulge to like such detail, but yeah, thanks for your patience.
No. You've sent me a few messages, and thanks for sharing on the show, and look forward to talking to you in a session.
Yeah,
right.
will do. Thank you. Bye for now.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay, we have 2 left on deck. Thanks for showing up, Rye Flint. Parisa, thanks for sharing. This was a great time for you, and I'm glad I came on. Great Eduardo Martinez, Roller Girl. Just to stay with the topic, I want my ex to appreciate me more. Please, in the comments, share. Has this happened to you before? If you want to book a live coaching session, go to rightmag.com. If you don't find the session useful or helpful, I will refund your money. Otherwise, have a good one. It's curtains.